I believe that New Orleans is truly the fertile crescent of American culture. Our culture evolved completely differently. It's a pot of gumbo with unique ingredients that has its own spicy flavor.
You spend time here and you just start to say, wow, a lot has gone into this gumbo. 350 years of things have gone into it.
Spanish, African, French, Creole from the Caribbean, as well as German.
Latinos, Jews, Sicilians.
Blends between blacks and French and Spanish people, often known as Creoles of color.
They came from Asia, the Philippines.
South America, North America.
English.
And of course, when this city was really conceived, there were thousands of American Indians already living here roughly in the present day spot. So this is one of those places where cultures of people came together and everybody brought all of their baggage, good, bad, or indifferent.
And music was one of the ways people found a common language here.
The music is really the glue that holds it all together.
New Orleans, the Crescent City, seethes and simmers with music. Music is alive here. It pours from every nook, cranny, and courtyard.
It is a reflection of the culture of New Orleans, and it can only really be experienced in person.
You have that opportunity to hear same music that was played 130 or 40 years ago. Understand that you are in a living.
So different that in 1994, Congress established an intangible national park in the city of New Orleans to preserve and promote jazz as an American cultural treasure. The New Orleans Jazz National Historical Park is not a place, it's a state of mind.
On the trumpet.
It's difficult to explain to people that you're not going to some big, large expanse of land, but you're in New Orleans, and this is the birthplace of jazz, and jazz is alive. It's not a cannonball.
Well, if we talk about the birth of New Orleans music, we really have to talk about the birth of American music, which would be jazz. So when we say this indigenous music, we're talking about the nucleus, the start point. The start point is jazz.
The fact is that the tradition of jazz in New Orleans has existed in an unbroken fashion from its origins in the late 19th, early 20th century, all the way to the present. New Orleans is a city where cultural tradition matters. In New Orleans, there's a balance between innovation and tradition. Improvisation never comes out of nothing. It's always rooted in history in New Orleans. And so this is an environment where people sort of backslide into the future.
In centuries past, beyond the former ramparts that protected the city, the throbbing beat of bare hands on drum skins and chanting voices carried a message of resistance and reaffirmation of a suppressed heritage.
New Orleans, more than any place in the country, allowed for the survival of African musical traditions. And how did that happen? The most significant reason is a place called Congo Square.
Congo Square is sacred ground. This was the place as early as the 1700s where Africans gathered on Sundays to practice their culture. People came here from Senegal, the Congo, Dahomey, all over Western and Central Africa. So this was the one place in the antebellum South where Africans were allowed to dance, drum, speak their languages, and practice their culture.
African drumming and dance in the antebellum South was thought to be connected to a potential for slave rebellion, which was everybody's greatest fear. And so consequently, such practices were absolutely illegal throughout the South.
Except in New Orleans.
What happened in Congo Square was that on Sundays there were gatherings of slaves, and they would sing, dance, chant, drum, and play other instruments in the authentic West African manner. They would celebrate and dance for hours. I mean, sometimes they would dance until people passed out.
New Orleans was exceptional because instead of trying to eradicate those practices, they said, this is inevitable given our population, but we're going to try to regulate it.
So the rhythms of Africa, which are heavily syncopated, were allowed to breathe a little bit here in New Orleans and allowed to survive.
Congo Square is just inside the gates of Louis Armstrong Park. Musicians and dancers from Africa, the Americas, and the Caribbean still gather to drum and dance as others did centuries ago.
Congo Square is very important symbolically. It shows you a public version of what went on all over New Orleans in secret and in private, on Lake Pontchartrain, on the shores of Bayou St. John, along the Mississippi River, and other places that we don't know about. But we do know that that tradition of African music making existed, was a strong part of New Orleans culture, and influenced jazz.
Let's not only think about the sounds in Congo Square and the drums, let's think about the sounds from the riverboats. Think about the sounds of the different languages you were hearing. Sound of the music, sound of the military style bands. A lot of stuff going on there. And I think that's what the city has soaked up.
Soaked up and converted to music.
And also with you. 2, 3, 4.
At St. Anna's Episcopal Church on Esplanade Avenue, the beat of drums is a powerful call to worship.
The interesting thing about that form of worship is it really is a form of worship common to virtually every native and indigenous race in the world. As we prayed, we could feel the prayers being lifted up by the percussion of the drums, by the very feel of the drums.
The annual blessing of the instruments at St. Anna's reflects the deep connection between religion and New Orleans' musical heritage.
And when we bless voices and bless instruments, we bless them to be instruments of creation. And there is a certain transforming quality when people realize that their gifts are sacred gifts, reflecting everything that we are.
This is a great city for churches, an embarrassment of riches. We have 200-year-old Catholic churches. We have 200-year-old Episcopal churches.
And St. Augustine, one of the oldest black Catholic congregations in America.
I would say churches and bars are the most important places in New Orleans. And sometimes people spend half of their day in a church and the other half in a bar.
The notorious Funky Butt Hall, where Buddy Bolden performed, was in fact a church on Perdido Street. So a place like Funky Butt Hall on a Saturday night turns into a church on Sunday morning.
Charles Buddy Bolden, one of the most revered of the early jazz pioneers, burst on the scene in the 1890s. No recordings of his sound survived.
Buddy Bolden, people talk about him playing his trumpet out the window at Funky Butt Hall. and people being able to hear him from miles away. People say they could hear him play across the river. You could be on the east bank, people could hear him on the west bank.
Buddy Bolden was what I would call a supernova. He's on par with Robert Johnson, Jimi Hendrix. He didn't live that long, but had a huge influence.
Bolden's stomping ground was the 400 block of South Rampart Street in the Backertown neighborhood, the center of the jazz universe. The jazz notes here are silent now, but this building at the corner of Perdido and South Rampart was once the home of the legendary Eagle Saloon, and upstairs, the Odd Fellows Dance Hall. It is now designated the birthplace of jazz by the Smithsonian Institution. Here, the early giants of jazz, like Buddy Bolden, King Oliver, and Louis Armstrong, all got their starts.
And that new music, which involved a lot of interesting principles like call and response, and also the use of the black singing style from the blues and the church on horns. That's what made the first jazz.
A lot of people don't really understand that it was born out of death.
Funerals for New Orleans black residents are often arranged by local burial societies or social aid and pleasure clubs, a tradition that goes back more than 200 years.
And they would put money together in these clubs so they could afford to bury people. At these services, you would get a preacher, you get a church, you get the casket, and they would bring it to the graveyard. But you'd also get this band. And when those church doors open, and you hear that band start that first song, there's no more powerful moment. You know time has stopped. The person you loved is no more, and they're gone. That casket starts rolling out, and they start playing those first notes, and it starts off with this roll brrr, on a snare drum, and then a bass drum hits this call. Boom, 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 boom. That's exactly what they do, and it's gut-wrenching.
After the burial, the band leads the mourners away from the cemetery.
People who really were very close to the deceased person, they stay behind, and they're considered the first line. Then there's this other really crazy aspect that happens.
A second line forms.
You might start off with 30 people who were at the funeral. Maybe it was 60 people at the funeral. But it'll be double that by the time you get 4 blocks. By the time you get 8 blocks, it'll be double that. And half those people have no idea who died. That's the most important aspect of the second line. See, everybody gets a chance to be a part of it. Everybody gets a chance to hear.
The second line now has a life of its own, beyond the jazz funeral.